this is a little hard to describe, but there's an unusual sport here in Australia where people race these human-powered vehicles. You lie down in them and you pedal them, and they're like a human-powered go-kart, essentially. And during that period, while I was doing that science degree, I got really into this sport, and me and my friend started to build one of these machines to race in one of the races coming up. Anyway, I ended up missing all of my science classes. I got totally bored with it. Ended up building this machine. We'd make videos about building it. There was a whole connection there, and we raced it in a big race that year. And then it kind of clicked, like industrial design. That's what I want to do. That's where my interests were at high school. So I started doing industrial design through this pathway. Ended up at University of South Australia doing industrial design. Really enjoyed it the whole way through. It was a 4-year degree.
Hey everybody, Mark Arinsberg here with The Purenow Show. This is episode number 22. My guest today is Justin Counihan. Justin is the managing director at Floodlight Content in Adelaide, Australia. Justin went from being an industrial designer intern in 2013 to where he is now running the show. It's great to talk to him. Here we go. Justin, how you doing, man?
Nice to meet you, Mark. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm excellent. Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for taking some time out to be on the Purenow Show. Really appreciate it.
Of course, no worries at all.
So you're in Australia?
Yes, in Adelaide, Australia. Yes. Bottom side, right in the middle of Australia, about 800 kilometres west of Melbourne, which is probably a little more known city than Adelaide. So we're one of the smaller cities in Australia.
I want you to jump in the time machine a little bit here and go back to your youth, what the spark was, what the inspiration was, how you got on track, thinking that you wanted to head down this creative path. And do you recall any significant event or events that occurred even as a child that informed you that this was direction that you wanted to go in?
Yeah, there's a couple of highlight stories I know my parents would definitely tell in this scenario that probably pointed to this being a possibility for me. There's a great series of photos around when I was 2 or 3 years old for probably 18 months where they could not take a photo of me as a kid because in every photo I would be screaming because I wanted to be using the camera. I refused to be in front of the camera. I was only happy if I was using the camera. So there's all these photos of me screaming with my hand outreached towards the camera, crying, asking them to give me the camera, which is quite funny. So I always had a fascination with cameras ever since I was a little kid. And this is probably where that industrial design and production side cross over. I always liked the mechanics of how cinematography works and photography works, and that crossover of kind of science and creativity is a really kind of strong point for me. And if you look at my YouTube history, it's all just science and technology YouTubers. It's pretty much exclusively what I watch. I really enjoy that kind of intersection of technology and creativity. There's probably another funny story that probably sums it up quite well from when I was a kid. And my parents have still got all the old videotapes. I used to be prolific with Lego, or Lego as you guys would say. We say Lego here for some reason. And I used to build cars all the time out of Lego. And then I would smash them into the wall of my bedroom and I'd film it in slow motion with our camera and then watch it back.
Wow.
And kind of both from an artistic point of view, the exploding Lego pieces flying everywhere, but also from a technical point of view, like seeing the physics of how it exploded and the camera kind of giving me a lens into a slow motion world of kind of exploding pieces, because it kind of gives you that amazing physics of the car exploding apart. So there's a funny kind of intersection there.
That's wild. You were like a baby Jerry Bruckheimer. You were so down with the whole technical aspect of it. And how old would you say you were at that time?
I was probably maybe 7 or 8 when I was doing the Lego exploding, and then probably 2 or 3 when I was crying and begging to be given the camera so I could be behind the lens.
So did that kind of clue your parents in? Was there some kind of a nurturing process that occurred after that? Did they recognize that you had this affinity and that you were absolutely telling them what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think there was a period of time where I wasn't quite sure how to apply that creativity. I think that for a while I felt like I had to do a more traditional career, whether it was engineering or something like that, but my math skills weren't quite as strong to be able to do the engineering side. And then I had this kind of creativity under the surface as well. And I didn't realize it, but it kind of perfectly aligned with industrial design, was kind of exactly where my skill sets in my earlier years aligned, which is it's kind of an intersection of creativity and engineering that mixed together really, really nicely. And yeah, that's kind of what led me down the industrial design path. And there's a few other circumstances. I'm a pretty avid cyclist, and there's a really strong connection between cycling and industrial design. A lot of people that end up doing industrial design are really keen cyclists, so that's how I ended up in that kind of design field, which is a really nice mix of technical and the creative being brought together, which is very much how I see a lot of the work that we do as well, is a really nice mix. And film in general and photography, all of those disciplines, 3D animation, they're all fantastic mix of technical prowess alongside highly creative work. So that's what's really attracted me to those fields. I see them in my head, they're all similar in a weird way.
Well, let's talk about the life of Floodlight content and see where you started with that and how you developed that out, what the complexities were, and how you came to a place of success and where you're still growing now.
Yeah, I joined in what was then just called Floodlight Media. It was two brothers, Dave and Cameron, and then I was the third employee. We started off in an office. It was 9 square meters. There was 3 of us in there, which is pretty tiny. It's a very small space. We were at the South Australian Film Corporation here in Adelaide, and occasionally their brother Joe used to come in as well, and we would all be in this 9 square meter office working together. He looked after our IT equipment and we used to do all the production. So Cam is our current creative director. Dave's a really talented cinematographer, and then I was the producer. So really I was kind of the last missing piece in the puzzle for them, I think. And once we kind of formed our team together, it really kind of took off. I was that last missing link to help manage those projects and bring the client along for the journey with the projects and kind of getting them more involved in what we were doing. So yeah, it was kind of just this perfect triangle. Once we linked that part together, it really started to take off. So yeah, as I said before, it feels like it's been a slow journey, but I guess it has been quite rapid. That was probably March or April 2015 I joined in, and we slowly started to grow the team from there, basically.
Can you give me an idea of a project you worked on that was challenging for you guys, although you may have delivered it or not delivered it?
I think every project has its unique set of challenges. There's a painful dichotomy that often happens with the projects that we work on, and the ones that turn out the best are often the ones that struggle from a financial perspective as well as from a development point of view through that journey, and often they're at odds with each other. The financial side and the creative side can often kind of butt heads with each other quite a lot, because as people get more invested in the project, tensions can rise around owning the creative idea more. You get a bit more conflict involved in the project. People spend more time on something because they're so passionate about it, and that starts to eat into budgets. So there's I think a couple of the projects you probably see on the front page of our website, and I won't name names, but some of them from a budgetary point of view were incredibly challenging. There'd be a lot of red all over the project management software on that one, but the output and the final delivery was some of the best work that we've ever done. So there's often that dichotomy there with our projects of managing that passion from our team at times, and trying to make sure that we get all those, because you really need all the levers to align. You need the financial side, you need the creative side, and you need the kind of project workflow side to all come together as best as you can, and you're constantly pushing and pulling those levers to try and make sure that the projects are running through the company really smoothly, and you're getting consistent high quality outputs at the end. Because the thing about this is, once that big project's done, there has to be another one following straight up behind it, and the team needs to be ready to go on that. And I think because we run a big internal team at Floodlight, we're not using a lot of freelancers, we do a lot of internal work. Everyone here is constantly needing to produce really high quality work, so they can't put all their energy into one thing. They have to be ready to roll onto the next project as that comes through. So that's a huge challenge as well.
Give me an idea of the best project that you guys have put out thus far, something that you're really proud of and that is kind of a benchmark for what you guys do going forward.
Yeah, I think there's probably a few that have worked really nicely, and they're all featured on our webpage. But the project for MGA Insurance Brokers was the first campaign that we got given. So we were able to do the full creative. It was a TV campaign, along with photography and some other assets, radio assets as well. We were able to look after that campaign from the start, and it's the first time we've been entrusted with that level of creativity and the strategic thinking behind it as well. And that project just worked really well. The client we were working with were really open to our ideas, and we'd worked closely with him in the past on different projects. So there was that level of trust there, even though it was a slightly new frontier for us. This was probably about 3 years ago. And then, it was just a smooth process. Everyone was aligned with the vision. The creative director had a really clear vision for what he wanted out of the project. Everyone was on board through the whole pre-production phase. We had a really nice, clear storyboarding and scripting process, and it was very, very smooth. So those kinds of projects are a real dream. But often the big ones just have their own sets of challenges attached to them. I can't think of a lot of projects that don't have some sort of passage of time within them that there was some tension or a little bit of drama attached to it that you have to resolve. But that's all part of the process, really, isn't it?